what I was doing was that I was getting an intuitive nudge, then realizing that I was actually very afraid of doing that thing. I would then analyze that fear and really go into it. We cannot go through life analyzing every single emotion. Imposter syndrome went through the roof. Oh my gosh, am I going slightly crazy? Because for me, it was so easy. And this is why, for me, movement is so key. The next morning, I just felt, wow. I think we're moving away from kind of this concept of healers and kind of moving into more mentors and guides and coaches. I'm guiding you through your own healing. I believe that we can all heal ourselves. Hello, and welcome to the second episode of Fully Blooming. It's quite funny. I almost feel a little bit more nervous doing the second one rather than the first one, because I feel that the first one, I don't know, it could have been anything. It could have been any creation. And now it's almost the second one. I feel that I have this expectation of this continuation of something coming through. And that's the thing with these podcasts. It's the same for my Instagram stories. I don't ever plan what I'm going to say. I get a nudge, I get a thought, and over the last couple of weeks, I've really had to learn to just do it, to just share, to just speak, and just see what comes through. So I had an intention for this episode, and it was inspired by my run this morning. And I dropped off the car because the time was coming to an end with it, and a rental car. And then I just got this, I just want to go for a run. So went for a run. Thankfully, I was in my fitness gear and things. Went for a run, went to the beach, jumped in the sea, and then there was this moment when I was kind of drying off before I put my shorts and top back on, where I had this moment of, oh God, got quite a long way to run back. And it was almost like my energy had just dipped. And a part of me was like, oh God, why did my intuition do this? Like, why did it lead me on this run? Why did it lead me to go for a swim in the sea when I don't have the energy to go back? And I've got things to do. I have to get back. I also hadn't had breakfast, so I was getting a bit hungry. And it was almost that, it was what I shared in my Instagram reel as well, that I almost put this pressure on of, I need to run all the way back. I need to run back into town, and then we live up a very steep hill, which kind of goes up in 3 or 4 different sections. And it's one of those hills where you kind of really have to get the car going to get up the hill without stalling. So it's a good drive, it's good fun. But I almost had this, oh gosh, I really can't be bothered. And actually, when I took the pressure off and kind of said to myself, you don't have to run all the way back. You can walk, you can stop, you can stop in a cafe and grab some water if you want some. But it was almost this pressure that I was putting on myself to get back by a certain time, be productive, when actually I'd really enjoyed my run to the beach and absolutely loved swimming in the sea, as I always do. And it was almost this feeling of time is running out. And I think a lot of us can resonate with this, that it's almost, if I'm doing something for myself that isn't productive, then it's got to also have some sort of meaning, some sort of end goal almost. And I think it's the same with kind of tools to help with your mental health. It's almost, we have this expectation of, if I do something for my mental health, I expect my mental health to be good. And I remember talking about this about a year ago. It's almost this, when we put an expectation on something and we do that thing, we are almost distracting ourselves from what is actually present in that moment. So for example, going for a run, we all know that exercise is good for us. It releases endorphins. It's good to move your body, especially because emotions are kind of energy in motion. So if we're very stagnant, those emotions can't really move and release. Something that I'm super passionate about, kind of movement to help yourself heal. But it's almost, if you go into something with this expectation, if you go into the run with this expectation and, right, this is going to help me with my mental health, I'm going to have this, I'm going to feel fantastic afterwards, you almost lose yourself in that, in the future, rather than being in that present moment of saying, okay, how am I actually feeling in this moment? Am I enjoying this? Am I looking around? How is my body feeling? Whereas if you're so focused on the outcome, it's very, very hard to enjoy the journey, to put it bluntly. And it's the same with your goals. It's the same with, if you're so focused on the goal and the outcome and what you're working towards and everything, it's that cliche of, you are going to miss the journey, and you are going to get to that moment when you have achieved that goal and you're not necessarily going to remember anything from the journey or the process, because you have been so wrapped up in this end goal. And going back to this kind of speed element of it, and this fear of things aren't happening quick enough, I'm running out of time, it comes from this lack mentality of, if I don't do this, someone else will, or I'm going to lose my shot, I'm going to lose my opportunity. And yes, of course, there's a balance between simply not doing things because you're afraid and you're procrastinating and you are telling yourself all the stories so that you don't do something, versus simply not listening to your body and giving yourself the time and space to really tune into your body and listen to what it wants as well. And there is this balance, and I realized that I've almost been tuning in, I don't want to say too much, but I've realized over the last month or so, couple of weeks, that I am such a strong believer in intuition. And my biggest lesson in the last couple of weeks that kind of smacked me in the face was that I was actually analyzing my intuition. And if you've been following me for a while, you know that your intuition doesn't make logical sense. And what I was doing was that I was getting an intuitive nudge and then realizing that I was actually very afraid of doing that thing. So for example, posting reels on Instagram, posting stories that, maybe I didn't look great, or I didn't feel perfect, or I wasn't kind of high vibe or in the best energy. And I would then analyze that fear and really go into it and be like, oh, okay, why do I have a fear of showing up? Why do I have a fear of stepping into my power? Why do I have a fear of, you name it? I analyzed it. And I think there's this element with healing also that I mentioned a couple of weeks ago of, we cannot go through life analyzing every single emotion that comes up. We really, really can't, because we'll get nowhere. And I have used the excuse of, and I'm calling myself out on this, I have used the excuse of, I need to work through this. I need to work through and understand and really release this fear of being seen, fear of being showing up, and then I'll do it. And it's the same with anything. It's when this happens, I will do this. And with healing, you cannot expect to end or get to a point or a goal or a point where you're going to be like, yeah, you know what? Everything is good now. I am fully healed. I am just perfect in whatever way that means to you. And I've realized that this healing journey, we can actually use it to self-sabotage ourselves. We can use it to say, oh no, I'm not, this has come up. I've been triggered by this. So I'm going to work through that first and then I'll do that thing. And I have really, really done that. And it's okay. I'm not beating myself up about it. I'm really glad that I have done so much healing. Because for me, if something comes up, if a trigger comes up, I am very much, right, let's deal with this. I want to get to the root of it because I want to keep flowing. I want to keep just really finding out who my true self is and really embodying that. But at the same time, I realized that I've been using it as an excuse to not show up. And a huge thing for me has been confidence, has been this, everything's got to be perfect for me to do it. And I realized it was, in some ways it's a perfectionism thing. And it was very, very subtle. And it was just, I think when you go on the healing journey, etc., whatever you want to call it, it is very interesting how at the start things are big triggers. You are going to be, well, this was my process, not saying it's the same for everyone at all, but for me I was being triggered so hard at the start of all of this that actually almost in the second phase of this, because my first phase I was just completely numb to everything, but the second phase, I guess, that I look at is that I was being triggered so hard that I couldn't avoid it. I had to deal with it head on. And it was very obvious what had triggered me. It was very clear what the whole process was and everything. And so then I was fascinated to find out why I was being triggered. And that was a whole thing. But now it's almost that I am getting things a little bit more subtle. I almost have to notice things a little bit more. It's almost like I've gone into a deeper level within my subconscious and it's just that little bit quieter. These kind of limiting beliefs, they're not so obvious. They're not so screaming at me constantly. And it's almost that they're a little bit further in the shadows. They're a little bit deeper and further back. And it almost, I realized I was just kind of missing them because I was almost on this first level in my mind, or first, floor, first floor, before I was going kind of now into that next level and even deeper. And actually the same triggers are coming up because it's almost, healing is not linear. It's a spiral. So you are going to come up against the same things again and again and again, just on a deeper level. And that's what I've, definitely been doing the last, I don't know how long, few months, And it's this, oh, wow, we are going here again, are we? I thought I dealt with this. And of course, I've dealt with it on one level, but you've got to go to the next level. But I realized with confidence, it was very, very quiet. It was just tiny little voice in the back of my head. Oh, no, don't do that. And just don't, no one wants to see that. No one's watching anyway. Oh, you don't have many followers. Oh, is anyone going to care? And it was just very, very, very quiet. And I'm sharing this because I think we all have this in some sort of capacity, whether we realize it or not. And I am going to say that women probably have it more than men, generally speaking. And for me, confidence was this: if you're confident, you're loud, you're too much, you are taking up too much space. How dare you be so confident? Do you really have the expertise? Do you really have the knowledge? Do you have everything to make you this confident? And yes, yes, I do. And it's almost, so many of us are now opening up into this much more conscious version of ourselves, where maybe we are realizing that we know things when we simply don't know where they came from, whether we read a book or we saw something, or maybe it's simply just knowledge that we already have. And for me, this is because I fully believe in past lives, and I know that I have knowledge from my past lives that has been kind of coming back in and landing with me over the last few years. And some books I read and it's almost a reminder. And it's almost, I only sometimes read the first page. I'm like, oh, yes, thank you. And I sometimes don't read the rest of the book. And as I say that, I know it almost sounds a little bit arrogant. It's, what do you mean she doesn't need to do this qualification? What do you mean she doesn't need to go and study this or whatever? How on earth can she know this? And this is something that I've really, really, really had to, I want to say, delve deep into, but also just release. Because sometimes things are just ready to go. We don't need to think about absolutely everything and delve deep into it. Because we've never moved forwards, or we would just lie in bed and be paralyzed probably. But I have definitely had to simply acknowledge these things that are coming up and sit with them. And that is how my intuitive healing came about. I remember that I was in Ibiza. I was sailing with friends. We sailed from Mallorca to Ibiza, and then we were sailing round to, what is that called? That's very special island. It'll come back to me. But the very strong energy spiritual island that is meant to be the entrance to all of these old cities and towns and everything. And I remember lying on the boat, and I was really struggling for the time that we'd been on the boat. I was very much up in my head. I just remember being very anxious, very ungrounded. And for me, it was almost this expectation, because for me, Mallorca is this place that brings up a lot of stuff for me for some reason. And so anyway, we were sailing around, and I did a meditation because I was like, I can't do this anymore. I need something to change. And did this meditation, and then the meditation ended, and I just started visualizing and feeling and moving my hands around my body. And this these sensations, this memory came up, and it was almost like I just allowed myself to flow and see what happened and came out. And I wasn't thinking about what I was visualizing or what, it was just simply, I was just almost following and an observer of what was going on. And I didn't really think anything of it. I felt absolutely incredible afterwards. And yeah, kind of just was like, I'm back. I am here. Woo. I've reconnected. Like, my soul feels safe enough to be in my body again. And for me, that is when I almost know that I'm out of alignment. It's when I know that my soul doesn't feel safe to be in my body. And that is when I'm very ungrounded. I am kind of in panic mode. My nervous system is completely shot, and I'm just kind of very anxious. And so, yeah, for some of you, that might just be that feeling of when you're really anxious, your nervous system is kind of in a reactivity hyper state. And for me, how I see it is that my soul doesn't feel safe to be in my body. So I feel very ungrounded and disconnected. So my process is that I do everything I can to calm my nervous system, and kind of relax and soothe myself, so that then my soul can come back, my intuition comes back, and it feels safe to be in my body again. But that is how I interpret it and how I feel it. Obviously, we've all got our own interpretations, and you get to choose what you believe and feel. Anyway, so I didn't think anything of it. And then I was in, I sailed for 2 weeks. And then the night that I got off the boat, my friend, who I was sailing with for the first week, invited me to this birthday party. And I actually then met one of my closest friends there, and for the first time, and that was a whole magic story, and she will be on the podcast. But we then went to a dance, and it was kind of this wake up ecstatic dance, and it was the full moon, I believe. Yeah, it was the full moon, and it was outdoors in this big kind of field, and it was magic, under this huge tree. And I, again, was dancing, and this is why for me movement is so key. And I was dancing, and I just felt all of this stuff just release. And then I just closed my eyes, and I just started moving my hands around in this way, and it was just this huge release. And it was, I remember exactly what it was focused on. And again, the next morning, I just felt, wow, okay. Again, didn't think anything of it. I just thought, this is just an energy thing. I've worked with energy and a healer for quite a long time. And my mum is also a life alignment practitioner and healer. So I've been around it. I've grown up around it. So I didn't really think anything of it. A few months later, I was in Barcelona with the same friend that I'd met at that party. And we were doing our morning routines. And in the morning, I started doing something with my hands again on my body. And it was actually, I wasn't even touching my body this time. It was actually simply just almost going through my chakras from my root up to my crown, and then also my source and my earth chakra. And I was just thinking, is it chakra or chakra? I think cha. Sorry, train of thought. And I was just kind of moving my hands, and it was almost this expansion. And my friend said to me afterwards, she went, "You do realize you were just doing energy work?" And I was like, what are you talking about? what do you mean? And she kind of asked me to explain what was going on, and I kind of explained what I was doing. And she's like, wow, that's, that is part of energy work. And then we went to a festival, and I was lying next to her in the field, and her arm was next to mine, and we just done this amazing, beautiful opening ceremony for this festival. And she was just lying next to me, and I could almost feel her body vibrating. It was almost this fizz. And I just went, I'm sorry, I cannot lie next to you. Your nervous system is shot right now. You are buzzing. You are, yeah, that's the word, buzzing. And I said to her, do you mind if I work on you? And because she was a friend, because the conversations we've had, and it was just the most natural thing. And so then I worked on kind of soothing her nervous system and calming her down, and then also just helping her to release things. And she can talk about her own experience if she wants to, but it was so fascinating because for me it was so easy, and I was just led to place my hands on her body in different positions and different places without thinking. I was just doing. And then there was someone else also at the festival who kind of we just got chatting, and he said, what do you do? And I said, I think I'm starting to do this energy work. And he said, show me. And imposter syndrome went through the roof. But I did it. And again, I'm not going to speak on his behalf or share his experiences, because those are his. But for me, it was this, oh my gosh, am I going slightly crazy? Is this actually doing anything? But hey ho, let's do it. And I have no idea how long either sessions were with those people, but it felt so easy and natural for me. And thankfully, I've got my mum, who is, as I said, a healer and life alignment practitioner. And I came back, and I also did a few more sessions on my friend, and I came back and I said, I think I need to show you this. I need to do a session on you. And it was just this, yep, you're doing it. You are doing it. And since then, that was in October, November, my world has really expanded in so many ways. But the main thing that has kind of been running through my head has been this lack of confidence, this imposter syndrome of, people learn this, people study this, people, I can't necessarily say what I do, but from my experience of kind of craniosacral work or osteopathy or energy work and energy healing and clearing, that's kind of what I'm realizing I'm doing. And also, like, I combine it with somatic work, so not only that I'm doing it, but that you're also doing it, so that you have some autonomy over the process. Because at the end of the day, I believe that we can all heal ourselves. I believe that we can all do what I do. We are simply very untapped and disconnected from it. And what really, this confidence aspect, I didn't realize this podcast was going to be about that, but here we go. There's been so many fears of, what if I do something wrong? What if I don't know, what if something goes wrong, or if I don't have the capacity to hold that person, what if? And it's this, again, the last couple of weeks, hello eclipse season. And yes, that all happened last eclipse season, so full circle. It has all come back to this I've had to release this notion of you needed to study for this. You needed to have trained and gone through practices and gone through training and etc., etc. And to simply trust that I can follow my body, I can follow my intuition. And I think there's obviously still probably elements of me that are going to come up again and going to be like, really? Whereas actually I know that I'm really good at what I do. I know that I've done it before in previous lives, and I have had previous lives where I've been doing this, and I have done all the learning, I have done all the studying and understanding, so that now I can come and do this. And there's always a part of me, as I say this out loud, of, are you really going to put this on a podcast? And yes, I am. Because at the end of the day, what is the point of, if we have these, I don't want to call it a gift, because I believe that we all have the ability to do this, and healing is definitely becoming a much more something that you can do yourself, whether it's in a group space or I think we're moving away from kind of this concept of healers, or of healers, and kind of moving into more mentors and guides and coaches. And that is, I call myself at the moment an expansion coach, because I want you to be able to fully bloom and fully thrive and fully expand into all that you are here to be. And at the moment, I am calling myself an intuitive healer and guide, because I think we are still living in a world where you almost need this label. But at the end of the day, I'm guiding you through your own healing. I am simply holding the space for you to be able to go deep, because at the end of the day, we need to feel safe within our bodies to release, to feel safe. Because if we are holding on, if we're so tight, then we are not going to be able to release anything. It's almost, if our muscles are already tight, you're not going to be able to release the muscle. You're not going to be able to release that knot if you're holding on really tight. And it's the same with emotions that are trapped within us, memories, traumas, etc. And yeah, that is why I believe that it's a guidance back to yourself. It's a guidance back to your intuition, to your body, because we are so disconnected from our body at the moment. And we have all the tools, we have all the knowledge and resources and wisdom within us. And now we've got the call to prayer. I don't know if you're able to hear it, but it's really coming back to this knowledge, to this, that we've probably done this before. We are safe in our bodies to allow things to release, to allow things to process and move through. And I think for me, my intuition has led me to becoming, this intuitive healer and doing this intuitive energy work, and kind of building up my own modality as well, kind of combining it with a somatic work as well. But during the sessions, at the end of the day, I am going to do things that my intuition is simply telling me to do. And that is why, in my sessions, I can't say, this is what we do, this is what happens. I can say roughly what may come up, or kind of what you may feel, different sensations. But it's this, really, you might go in with one expectation and actually, or have one focus of something that you want to work on, and actually something else might come up that is already ready to be released. But yeah, I'm fully stepping into it. I am fully doing it. And yeah, I think, again, you will not hear me never say anything bad. Well, does that make sense? I will never stop saying amazing things about intuition. Does that make more sense? Never say never, but hey ho. Because for me, my intuition has led me back to my body, to what is best for me. And through that, the energy healing has come from that. The healing has come from that. And of course, sometimes I absolutely need someone external to help me through something, because we can't do it all on our own, and we are meant to be in community, be with others, and allow others to help us. We don't need to do it all on our own. But there also is this element of, I know that whatever comes up, I will be able to get myself through it. And sometimes actually my intuition is telling me, go and reach out to that person, go and ask for help from that person. Your intuition isn't simply telling you to do things yourself individually. It's very holistic in a way. It is going to help you to reach out to those people. And yeah, your intuition has your best interests at heart. And I think that's almost where I'm going to wrap up here, because if we fully trust that our intuition has our best interests at heart, what I mentioned at the very beginning of the podcast, that, you know, we feel that time's running out. If we follow our intuition and we have an intention, we have something or somewhere that we want to go or end up, we can fully trust that if we follow our intuition, it will guide us there. It will absolutely guide us in the most sustainable way, rather than sprint finish. It's going to be the sustainable way, so that we can enjoy the journey, so that we can enjoy this life that we've got on this planet, and also get to the end goal not absolutely exhausted and feeling like we need to rest for the next months or years because we've been burning ourselves out towards that goal. So that's where I'm going to leave it today. Again, very interested that was all that came up. I was not expecting that. But again, if anything resonates, if you have any questions, please reach out. All of my details are in the information below. And yeah, if you are feeling that you want to move your body in a way, if you feel that you want to express your body in some way, or that your intuition is pulling you towards something and it doesn't make any sense, do it. Just do it. Because yeah, your intuition has your best interests at heart, and it wants you to thrive. And it's 13:13. So perfect. I'm going to end it there, and I will see you on the next episode. Thank you so much for watching another episode of Fully Blooming. If you're feeling inspired and motivated, please share with anyone you think may benefit from this video, and comment below if you have any ideas, suggestions, or comments about future episodes that you'd like to know about. Thank you so much for your support, and see you at the next episode.